Daddy, I told her mom's secret last night. Daniel Hayes froze halfway down the wooden staircase, hand resting on the banister worn smooth from years of use. The voice belonged to his daughter, Emma, soft, sleepy, carrying a warmth he hadn't heard from her in a long time. Morning light spilled through the cabin's kitchen windows, gold across the old pine floor. Coffee drifted through the air. Cinnamon, too. And laughter. Quiet laughter. He reached the last step and stopped breathing. A woman stood at his stove wearing his old red flannel shirt, sleeves pushed to her elbows, blonde hair loosely tied back, steam rising from the skillet. Emma sat beside her, head resting against her arm like it was the most natural thing in the world. Daniel stared. That shirt was his favorite. The one he hadn't worn since last winter. The one he'd tossed in the laundry basket after the storm. The woman turned. Gray eyes met his, calm, tired, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with makeup or money. She gave a small, almost apologetic smile. "Good morning," she said quietly. "You're awake," he said. He glanced at Emma, then back at the stranger he'd carried through the snow 12 hours earlier, after finding her beside a disabled SUV on County Road 16, freezing rain soaking her coat. He'd offered shelter because that was who he was. No questions, no expectations, just decency. But this was something else. Emma looked up. Color had returned to her cheeks. Real color. Daniel had spent 2 years hoping for that, ever since cancer took his wife and silence moved into their home like a winter that refused to leave. "Daddy," Emma whispered, fingers curled around a chipped mug of cocoa. She made pancakes shaped like stars. Daniel swallowed. The kitchen suddenly felt too small for his heartbeat. "I'm sorry about the shirt," the woman said softly. "Mine got soaked, and your daughter insisted I take it." Emma sat up straighter. "I did." Daniel almost smiled. Outside, fresh snow rested over the fence posts and the old pickup. The world looked still, like it was holding its breath. He stepped forward. "I never asked your name." She hesitated. Something flickered behind her eyes. Not fear exactly. More like someone deciding how much truth she could afford. Then she looked at Emma, who had fallen asleep against her shoulder without realizing it. The woman brushed a strand of hair from the girl's forehead gently. "My name is Sophie." She paused. "And last night your daughter told me something she thought nobody else remembered." Daniel's chest tightened. Even the coffee maker seemed to go quiet. Sophie lifted her eyes. "She told me her mother used to say, 'If Emma ever smiled like this again, you weren't supposed to be afraid of loving someone new.'" The words settled over Daniel like snow falling onto old tracks. He didn't move, one hand braced on the back of a kitchen chair while the fire crackled in the stove behind him. Emma had gone quiet again, sensing something larger than pancakes was happening in the room. Daniel looked away first. He poured himself coffee, the familiar scent grounding him. "Emma," he said gently, "why don't you finish breakfast and go feed Bella?" "Okay, Daddy." She slid off her chair and headed for the mudroom, where their old golden retriever waited by the back door. The moment she vanished, silence settled in. "I'm sorry," Sophie whispered. "I shouldn't have said it like that." Daniel stared into his coffee. "No, you just said something I haven't heard in 2 years." Outside, wind moved through the pines. Sophie folded her hands. "Last night, she couldn't sleep. The storm scared her, so I stayed in the hallway. I didn't want her waking up alone." She glanced toward Emma's empty chair. She asked if mothers still watch from heaven when children forget how to smile. Something tightened in Daniel's chest. "Then she showed me a drawing," Sophie continued. "A house, 3 people holding hands. One of them had no face." The kitchen went still. Daniel knew that drawing. He'd found versions of it in Emma's room for months. Always 3 figures. Always one unfinished. "She never showed me that one," he said, sitting down slowly. Sophie gave a small, sad smile. Maybe she was waiting. Daniel studied her now. She didn't look like someone who belonged in a cabin 30 miles from town. Her hands were careful, her posture composed, like someone used to boardrooms, not stoves. Yet this morning she looked tired, human, almost fragile. "Where were you going last night?" he asked. Her fingers paused around the mug. She looked toward the window. "Away," she answered softly. He waited. "Sometimes people with everything still need somewhere to breathe," she said, a faint smile that never reached her eyes. Before Daniel could respond, Emma burst back in, snow on her boots. "Daddy, there's a black car down by the road." Daniel turned. Far beyond the fence line, a dark SUV sat motionless near the entrance path. Sophie went completely still, color draining from her face. She didn't move toward the window, just stood there, both hands wrapped around her mug, as though warmth alone could keep the past from walking through the snow. Daniel noticed immediately. The still shoulders, the careful breathing, a quiet kind of fear that didn't shout. "Maybe somebody's lost," Emma said hopefully. The SUV sat nearly a quarter-mile away. Engine off, dark windows. It hadn't been there 5 minutes earlier. "You know who that is," Daniel said. Not a question. "Possibly," Sophie said. "Friends?" Emma asked. "Not exactly." Bella barked from the porch, pulling Emma's attention outside. The door shut, and the cabin went quiet again. "I should leave," Sophie finally said. "You were running," Daniel said. "You noticed. People don't drive mountain roads during a winter storm without a reason." She looked toward the window, where Emma's laughter floated through the cold air. "Yesterday was supposed to be my engagement announcement." Her voice carried no pride, only exhaustion. "Investors, press, perfect smiles. I left before I walked onto the stage." Daniel studied her. She looked less like someone escaping luxury and more like someone escaping loneliness. "Why?" he asked quietly. "Because everyone loved what I built," she said. "Nobody asked if I was happy inside it." Outside, Emma laughed again, and something in Daniel softened. He'd forgotten how loud joy sounded. "She misses her mother every minute," Sophie said. "Me too," Daniel said. Silence settled between them, not uncomfortable, just honest. "Last night, when she fell asleep beside me, she held my hand," Sophie said. "Like she was afraid I'd disappear." Daniel knew that fear. Emma carried it everywhere, the fear that love always left. A phone buzzed beneath a coat by the fireplace. Sophie went pale. It buzzed again, sharp, persistent. She crossed the room and pulled it out. One name filled the screen: Marcus Whitfield. The call ended. Another came immediately, then another. Daniel caught the shift in her expression. Not fear now, weariness. Emma burst back in, cheeks red. "Daddy, the people from the black car are walking up the road." Sophie closed her eyes for 1 second. When she opened them, the quiet woman in his flannel shirt was gone. In her place stood someone composed, controlled, the kind of person used to being watched. "Daniel," she said softly, "there's something you need to know about me before they reach this house." Outside, 2 figures in dark coats moved through the snow toward the cabin. "My full name is Sophie Whitfield," she said. "Whitfield Living, Whitfield Design, Whitfield Hospitality. They're all mine." "Like, all of them?" Emma asked. "Some of them," Sophie said, a small smile. "You own the company that remodeled the children's wing at Pine Ridge Hospital," Daniel said. Sophie looked surprised. "You know that project?" "My wife spent her last months there." Sophie lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry." "They built a music room," Daniel said, his voice distant. "Emma used to sit there with her mom." Outside, footsteps crunched closer. Emma slipped her hand into Sophie's without thinking. Daniel noticed. Emma had avoided touch for almost 2 years, yet now it seemed natural. A gentle knock came at the door. "I should go," Sophie said. No, Emma said, too fast, too small, too honest. Sophie knelt in front of her. Sweetheart, you promised pancakes for lunch. That's not really a promise. It is to me. Daniel opened the door to two people dusted in snow, a man in a charcoal coat, a woman with a leather folder. Mr. Hayes, the man said, my name is Walter Combs. I work for Miss Whitfield. We've been searching all night. No accusation, just relief. The board is waiting, the woman said. There's a helicopter at Ridgefield Landing. You have a helicopter? Emma asked. Unfortunately, Sophie said. Seriously, that sounds lonely. Nobody spoke. Sophie stared at the little girl as though hearing the truth for the first time in years. Emma held out a paper snowflake she'd made that morning. You can take this so you don't forget the cabin. Sophie accepted it with both hands, eyes shimmering. Daniel added another log to the fire. Winter pressed against the windows, but inside, everything felt suspended between leaving and staying. I should go with them, Sophie said. You said should, Emma said, voice small but firm. You didn't say want. She stared at the floor. Mom used to do that too. When she was scared, she said should instead of want. Sophie knelt again. Sweetheart, there are people waiting for me. Daddy has people too. Emma pointed to framed photos on the shelf. Daniel and his wife at the county fair, Emma on her first fishing trip. Mom still waits here. Daddy waits too. He just doesn't know it. Sophie turned toward the door. Walter, tell them I need one more day. Walter looked shocked. Miss Whitfield, the board meeting has already been delayed. Then delay it again. The press conference is tomorrow morning, the woman with the folder said. For the first time in 10 years, Sophie said. I'm not interested in a schedule. They stepped back outside. No drama, just silence. Emma pulled out crayons. Now we can make lunch pancakes. Sophie laughed. Real laughter, warm and unplanned. For a second, she forgot who she was supposed to be. Not a CEO, just a woman standing in a cabin, sunlight on her face. She caught Daniel looking and glanced away. I should probably change. It's fine, he said too quickly. Emma grinned and pretended to color harder. As Sophie passed the bookshelf, her hand brushed a cedar box beside old photo albums. The lid shifted, revealing letters tied with blue ribbon and a folded note on top. That was hers, Daniel said quietly. He lifted the note, stared at it, then handed it to her. Sophie took it as if it might disappear. The handwriting curved gently across the page. If you are reading this, then Daniel trusted you enough to hand you something he could never throw away. He will pretend he is fine. He always does. He will carry grief like it is his job. If Emma ever laughs again after I am gone, please do not let him run from it. Sophie's eyes shimmered. She wrote that 6 months before we lost her, Daniel said, facing the stove. You read it often. Every birthday, every Christmas, every day Emma stopped speaking. Emma held up a new drawing, 3 figures beneath a pine tree, all with faces now. Do not worry, I made the face this time. Daniel sat down slowly, the room full and still. Sophie, Emma said, that is beautiful. It's our cabin picture. Sophie almost corrected her, almost said it wasn't hers. The words wouldn't come. For the first time in years, she'd slept without checking emails. For the first time in longer than she wanted to admit, someone had handed her coffee expecting nothing back. Daniel reached for plates. Their hands brushed and both pulled back. You two act weird, Emma said with total seriousness. Sophie's phone lit up again. Not Walter this time. Marcus. 31 missed calls. She turned it face down. That person makes you sad, Emma said. What? Your eyes change. Sometimes grown-ups stay in places they should leave, Sophie said softly. Emma nodded like she understood. Mom said love is where you breathe better. Daniel stopped moving. Their eyes met across the kitchen. Not romance yet. Something gentler. Trust. Then Sophie noticed a second envelope in the cedar box, unopened, with Daniel's name across the front. "You never read this one?" she said. "No," Daniel said, voice dropping to a whisper. "Why?" "Because I was afraid it might tell me to let go." The fire had settled into embers. Sophie held the envelope out. "I think she trusted you more than your fear." "What if it says move on?" "Then maybe she loved you enough to want that for you." Daniel finally took it, fingers trembling. Emma sat beside him without a word. He broke the seal and unfolded the single page. "If you are reading this, then you waited longer than I expected. You stubborn man. You will carry me longer than you should. You will call it loyalty. I will call it what it is: love. But love is not meant to become a locked room. If Emma ever finds someone who makes her laugh again, do not be brave. Be open. If someone walks into our home and brings light back, do not honor me by closing the door. Honor me by opening it. And if she happens to wear your flannel shirt while doing it, try not to be impossible." Emma gasped. Sophie covered her mouth. Daniel laughed and cried at the same time, quietly, honestly. Emma wrapped her arms around him. Sophie looked away, giving him privacy even inside grief. Then her phone rang. This time she answered. "Sophie," Walter said. "The board approved the emergency delay." She closed her eyes. "Thank you." "There is one more thing," Walter said. "Marcus arrived at headquarters this morning. He announced to the press that the engagement remains active." Sophie's face lost all color. "I never said yes," she whispered. The words lingered. "Then why does everyone think you did?" Daniel asked. "Because silence is convenient when money is involved." Sophie stared out at the white field. "Marcus and I grew up in the same world, same schools, same expectations. People assumed our lives belonged together long before we ever met. Sometimes it was easier not to argue." "And now?" Daniel asked. "Now I'm tired of living a life designed by committee." Emma walked over holding her drawing. "Then pick this one. 3 people, 1 cabin, 1 pine tree. You said people wanted to choose for you, so choose your own picture." Sophie's phone rang again. She silenced it. It rang a second time, a third. "You don't have to answer," Daniel said. "I always answer. Maybe that's the problem." She turned the phone off completely. The cabin went impossibly quiet. Emma smiled like she'd witnessed magic. "That felt terrifying," Sophie said, laughing through tears. "Good things usually do," Daniel said. Afternoon light drifted through the windows. "Lunch pancakes now. Important meeting," Emma announced. "More important than a board meeting?" "Way more." At the stove, Sophie's shoulder brushed Daniel's. Their fingers touched, reaching for the batter bowl. Neither moved away right away. Emma grinned into her crayons. Outside, a dark helicopter appeared near the valley landing strip. The world she'd left, still waiting, patient and powerful. But when Sophie looked back into the cabin, Daniel at the stove, Emma laughing over crooked stars, Bella asleep by the fire, the old red flannel still on her shoulders, leaving felt harder than staying. By late afternoon, the snow had stopped, sunlight resting gold across the white fields. The last pancake sat untouched. Nobody ready for what was coming. "I have to go," Sophie finally said. "Thank you for last night," she told Daniel. "You already said that." "Not for saving me on the road, for letting me be nobody for a day." Emma crossed the room and held out her finished drawing, smoke rising from the cabin's chimney. 3 people together, the woman holding a paper snowflake. "Keep it," she whispered. "I will," Sophie said. "Will you come back?" Sophie closed her eyes. "I don't know what tomorrow looks like yet, but I know this place changed me." A car engine sounded outside. Walter had returned. Sophie slipped off the flannel shirt, folded it carefully, then stopped. "Actually, I think I need to borrow this a little longer." Daniel almost laughed. "Fair trade, for what?" She glanced at the snowflake in her hand. That. Sophie moved toward the door, then turned back. There's something I never said. She took a breath. I didn't stay because I felt sorry for you. I stayed because your daughter laughed. Her eyes shimmered as she looked around the cabin one last time. The stove, the pine shelves, the cedar box, a life built from loss and grace. For the first time in years, I wanted to belong somewhere. Emma walked forward and wrapped her arms around Sophie, the paper snowflake crinkling between them. Daniel looked away toward the window, giving them privacy even as it broke his heart. Outside, winter light covered the valley. Inside, silence fell across the room. Not empty, not grief. The kind that arrives when truth finally finds a home.